Commander Jun Han opened his eyes to darkness. His head hurt. The metal floor beneath him was cold. This was not his ship. This was not Earth. This was a cell. Memory came back in pieces. His patrol ship near Saturn. The flash of enemy weapons. The screams of his crew as their hull broke apart. Then nothing. Jun sat up slowly. His uniform was torn and dirty. He touched his face and felt dried blood. How long had he been here? Days. Weeks. A dim light flickered on overhead. Jun could now see his small cell. Metal walls. No windows. A simple toilet in one corner. A thin mat that served as a bed. Everything smelled strange, like burnt metal and something sour. The door to his cell slid open with a hiss. Two tall figures entered. Jun had seen their kind before, but only in battle footage. Terraks. The aliens stood over 7 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in a natural armor that looked like a brown-green exoskeleton. Their 4 eyes, too large, too small, stared at him without blinking. "Human, Commander," one of them said in a harsh, mechanical voice. It came from a translator device on its chest. "You will stand." Jun stood, though his legs felt weak. He was a soldier. He would show no fear. "I am General Krav," the Terrak said. "You are the first human we have taken alive." Jun said nothing. He remembered his training. Name. Rank. Nothing more. Commander Jun Han, Earth Defense Fleet, ID 87,254. General Krav made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We know who you are. We found your ship's records. What we want is what you know." The second Terrak moved forward and placed a device on the wall. It projected an image into the air, a map of the solar system. Earth, the Moon, Mars, the asteroid belt. "Your patrol ship was far from your normal routes," Krav said. "Why were you near Saturn?" Jun remained silent. "Your species has been at war with us for 8 years, Krav continued. "You are losing. Your colonies fall one by one. Soon we will reach Earth itself." The second Terrak stepped forward. 3 of your Earth months have passed since your capture. Your people think you are dead. 3 months. Jun felt a wave of shock, but kept his face calm. 3 months in this cell. 3 months of war continuing without him. "Your crew died quickly," Krav said. "We could have saved them, but humans have never interested us before. Now things have changed. Now we have questions." Commander Jun Han, Earth Defense Fleet, ID 87,254. Jun repeated, standing as straight as he could. Krav touched a control on his arm guard. The image changed to show a planet. Not Earth, but one of the outer colonies, Titan Base. "This colony fell last week," Krav said. 2,000 humans. Most died. Some were taken for study. Jun felt sick. Titan Base was small but important. Its fall would hurt Earth's defense plans. "Tomorrow we will talk again," Krav said. "You will tell us what we need to know." Humans break easily. As the Terraks turned to leave, Jun finally spoke. "Why am I alive?" Krav paused at the door. "Because you were near Saturn for a reason. Because your ship carried no weapons but many sensors. Because something has changed in Earth's defenses, and you know what it is." The door slid shut, and Jun was alone again in the dim light. He sat back on the floor, mind racing. They were right about one thing. He had been near Saturn for a reason. The new shield technology was being tested there, hidden from Terrak scouts. It was Earth's last hope, a way to protect the planet when the Terraks finally broke through the outer defenses. Jun looked around his cell carefully. If he had been here for 3 months and was still alive, the Terraks needed him. That meant he had time. Time to watch, time to learn. He lay back on the cold floor and began to count the seconds between the faint humming sounds in the walls. The Terraks had made a mistake keeping him alive. They didn't know humans very well. and Jun Han planned to use that to his advantage. 7 days had passed since Jun's first meeting with General Krav. Each day followed the same pattern. The dim lights would brighten slightly. The door would open. Krav would enter with another Terek. Questions would be asked. Threats would be made. Jun would say only his name, rank, and ID number. Today, Jun sat on his mat, waiting. He had been counting the cycles of the ship. The humming in the walls changed every 4 hours. The temperature dropped slightly every 12 hours. The Tereks brought food once every 6 hours. These patterns helped Jun keep track of time. The door slid open. Jun stood up, ready for the usual routine. But something was different today. General Krav entered alone. He carried a small device Jun had not seen before. "Sit," Krav ordered. Jun remained standing. "Sit," Krav repeated, "or you will see things that will break even your human stubbornness." Slowly, Jun sat back down on his mat. Krav placed the device on the floor between them. It lit up and projected a 3-dimensional image in the air. Jun's heart stopped. He knew this place, New Hope Colony, the small settlement where his sister Minna lived with her husband and 2 children. "This was recorded 3 days ago," Krav said. The image showed Terek ships descending from the sky. Buildings burst into flames. People ran. The scene was chaos and destruction. "No," Jun whispered, forgetting his training for a moment. "Yes," Krav said. "New Hope Colony is gone. We found something interesting there." The image changed to show a building Jun recognized. The colony's research center. Minna worked there as a scientist. "Your defense systems are changing," Krav said. "The new shield technology. We found parts of it at this colony." Jun forced his face to remain calm, but inside he was breaking. Minna, her family. Were they dead? Had they escaped? He would not ask. He could not show this weakness to Krav. "Commander Jun Han, Earth Defense Fleet. ID 87,254, he said, his voice flat. Krav made a clicking sound that his translator did not convert. Frustration, perhaps. "The High Command wants the shield technology," Krav said. "It is the only reason you still live. We have been patient. That patience ends soon." Jun said nothing. He stared at the now frozen image of the burning colony. Something was odd about the footage. The fires didn't move right. The people seemed to follow patterns. Was this real, or was it fake? A trick to break him. Krav noticed Jun studying the image. He switched off the device quickly. "Tomorrow, Lieutenant Dirac will join us," Krav said. "He specializes in pain. Not just physical pain. He can make you feel like your skin is burning while your mind stays clear. You will beg to tell us everything." Jun looked directly at Krav for the first time. "Why do you always leave after exactly 30 minutes? The question caught Krav by surprise. The Terek's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "You are not asking the questions, human," Krav said, but there was something new in his voice. Uncertainty. Jun had noticed this pattern. Every interrogation lasted exactly 30 minutes. Then Krav would leave, often in the middle of a threat. Why? What happened every 30 minutes that pulled Krav away? "Your war will fail," Krav said, standing taller. "Earth will fall. The shield technology will not save you. Commander Jun Han, Earth Defense Fleet. ID 87,254, Jun replied. Krav turned to leave, then paused. "Your sister Minna Han was taken alive from New Hope Colony. She is now on this ship. Perhaps tomorrow you will see her. Perhaps you will hear her scream." The door slid shut behind Krav. Jun sat very still, controlling his breathing. Minna was alive. Maybe. If Krav was telling the truth. But now Jun had a new problem. If Minna was here, he could not escape alone. He would need to find her. Jun resumed his counting of the ship's cycles, and he added a new count. How long until Krav returned with Lieutenant Dirac and new ways to cause pain? Time was running out, but Jun had noticed something important, something about the Terex that might help him survive what was coming next. Lieutenant Dirac was taller than General Krav. His exoskeleton had a reddish tint. His 4 eyes were not the same yellow as Krav's, but a deep orange. He carried a small box in his 3-fingered hands. "This human has been difficult," Krav said to Dirac. "Show him what happens to difficult humans." Jun stood against the wall of his cell. He had slept poorly, thinking of Mina, wondering if she was really on this ship. He felt weak. It had been 4 days since he had eaten the tasteless food the Terex provided. He didn't trust it anymore. "I have studied human pain," Dirac said, his translator making his voice sound even more mechanical than Krav's. "Humans have so many nerves, so many ways to feel pain." Dirac opened the box. Inside was a small silver device with thin wires ending in round pads. "This will not damage your body," Dirac explained, almost kindly. "It will only make you feel like it is damaging your body. Your mind will believe you are burning, or freezing, or drowning." Jun said nothing as Dirac approached with the device. The lieutenant placed 2 pads on Jun's temples, 2 on his neck, and 2 on his chest. "Start with level 1, Krav ordered. Dirac touched the silver device. Jun's world exploded in pain. It felt like fire racing through his blood. His legs gave out, and he fell to his knees. "The shield technology," Krav said calmly. "Tell us how it works." "Commander Jun Han, Earth Defense Fleet, ID 87,254, Jun gasped through the pain. Dirac increased the level. Now it felt like Jun's skin was being peeled away. He bit his tongue to keep from screaming. "The technology," Krav repeated. Jun shook his head. Blood filled his mouth where he had bitten his tongue. For 28 minutes, they continued. Dirac would increase the pain. Krav would ask questions. Jun would refuse to answer. Then Dirac would find a new kind of pain. Jun kept count in his head, through the pain. 28 minutes. 29 minutes. "Enough," Krav said, "right on schedule. We will continue tomorrow." "But he is close to breaking," Dirac protested. "I can feel it." "We will continue tomorrow," Krav repeated firmly. Dirac removed the pads from Jun's body. Jun lay on the floor, shaking, but his mind was clear. There it was again. Exactly 30 minutes, and Krav needed to leave. Why? As they turned to exit, Jun made his move. He had to know. "Wake," he said, his voice hoarse. "I'll talk." Both Terex turned back. Dirac seemed pleased. Krav was suspicious. "What changed your mind, human?" Krav asked. "I can't take any more," Jun said, looking defeated. "But first, answer one question." "You do not ask questions," Krav said. "Just one," Jun insisted. "How long can you actually function between atmospheric treatments?" The effect was immediate. Krav's body stiffened. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly. Dirac stepped back, as if Jun had threatened him with a weapon. "How do you know about that?" Krav demanded, his translator struggling to keep up with his rapid speech. Before Jun could answer, an alarm blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. "Human ships," a voice announced over the ship's communication system. "Attack formation. All warriors to defense stations. Lock him down," Krav ordered Dirac. "I must go to the command center." Dirac secured Jun's wrists to the wall with metal restraints. The 2 Terex hurried out, forgetting in their rush to take the pain device with them. Alone again, Jun smiled despite his pain. The alarm was good luck, but more important was the reaction to his question. He had been watching the Terex for months, counting their schedules, noticing how they all seemed to leave their posts at the same times, how they moved slower after certain periods. The Terex needed special air. They needed to refresh themselves regularly. This was why Krav always left after 30 minutes. This was a weakness, a big one. Now Jun just had to survive long enough for the attacking human ships to find him, and hoped that somewhere on this massive Terek vessel, Minna was still alive. The alarms kept blaring. June pulled against the metal restraints that held his wrists to the wall. They were strong, but he noticed something. When the ship shook from what must have been weapon hits, the wall panel moved slightly. It wasn't as solid as it looked. June braced his feet against the floor and pulled hard during the next explosion. The panel creaked. He pulled again. His wrists bled, but he kept pulling. Another hit rocked the ship, and the panel gave way just enough for one restraint to break free. With his right hand loose, June quickly worked to free his left. He stumbled to the door, weak from pain and hunger. It was locked, of course. But Dirac had left the silver pane device on the floor. June picked it up, his hands shaking. Maybe it could be useful. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered and went out. Emergency red lighting came on. The door to June's cell slid open a few inches, then stopped. The ship's systems were failing. June pushed his fingers into the gap and pulled with all his strength. The door moved just enough for him to squeeze through. The corridor outside was empty. The Tereks were busy with the attack. Which way? June whispered to himself. He needed to find Minna, if she was really here, but he also needed to escape. The ship shuddered again from another hit. A noise from the left made June press himself against the wall. Footsteps, but lighter than a Terek's. Then a voice, a human voice. Life signs show one human down this corridor, the voice said softly. June stepped forward into the dim red light. Here, he called, his voice rough from screaming during torture. 3 figures in black combat suits appeared, human soldiers. The lead soldier raised her visor. A woman with short black hair and determined eyes looked at June. Commander Han, she asked in disbelief. Captain Sunho Park, Special Rescue Division. We thought you were dead. Almost, June said. How did you find me? We've been tracking this ship for weeks, Sunho explained quickly. We detected human life signs, but couldn't confirm it was you until we got closer. One of the other soldiers moved forward. Sir, I'm Engineer Ja Kim. We need to move quickly. Our ship is docked at access point E7, but it won't stay safe for long. My sister, Jum said. Minna Han. They told me she's on this ship. From New Hope Colony. The soldiers looked at each other. New Hope was attacked, Sunho said grimly. But we don't have reports of prisoners. Our scan only shows one human life sign on this ship. You. Krav had lied about Minna. June felt both relief and fresh anger. She might still be alive somewhere, not captured as Krav had claimed. I need to get something before we go, June said. The cell monitoring system. It's in the wall panel of my cell. We don't have time, Sunho protested. Trust me, June insisted. I've learned something that could change the war. Sunho nodded reluctantly. Ja followed June back to his cell. Together, they pulled open the loose wall panel. Behind it was a small computer system. June quickly removed a data chip. This recorded everything in my cell for 3 months, he explained, including the patterns of when the Tereks needed to leave. As they hurried back to join the others, the ship rocked from more explosions. They ran through corridors, following Sunho. Twice they had to hide from Terek soldiers rushing to battle stations. Finally, they reached a small airlock where the human rescue ship was docked. As they prepared to board, Jun glanced back and saw a familiar figure at the end of the corridor. General Krav stood watching, his 4 eyes fixed on June. But instead of raising an alarm or firing a weapon, the Terek simply stared, his head tilted slightly, as if puzzled. June held up the data chip for Krav to see, then stepped into the airlock. The small human ship, the Silent Arrow Asterisk, detached from the Terek vessel seconds later. As they pulled away, June watched through a viewport as the massive alien ship grew smaller. What did you find out? Sunho asked, helping June to a seat. I think I found their weakness, June replied. And they know I found it. The Earth Defense Station hung in orbit like a giant metal ring. From the window of the medical bay, Jun could see the blue planet below. Home. After 3 months as a prisoner, he still couldn't believe he was back. Dr. Day checked Jun's healing wrists. "The cuts are closing well," he said. "But you need to eat more. You lost too much weight." Jun nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He had been in the medical bay for 5 days. 5 days of tests, questions, and rest. But he was getting impatient. The data chip he had taken from the Terek ship was being studied. He wanted to know what they had found. The door slid open. Admiral Taiyun entered, followed by Captain Sunho Park, and a woman Jun didn't know. "Commander Han," Admiral Ta said, "how are you feeling?" "Ready to leave this room," Jun answered honestly. Admiral Ta smiled slightly. "Good, because what you brought back is very interesting. This is Dr. Hyun Lee, our lead cynobiologist." The woman stepped forward. She had gray in her black hair and kind eyes behind round glasses. "Commander Han," Dr. Hyun said, "your observations may have given us the key to ending this war." Jun sat up straighter. "The data chip." "Yes," Dr. Hyun said. She placed a tablet on Jun's bed. It showed charts and graphs. "We analyzed the recordings from your cell. You were right about the Terek's patterns." Captain Sunho spoke up. "Every 30 minutes, like clockwork, all Tereks on duty would rotate, even during battle." "But it's more than just a work schedule," Dr. Hyun explained. "The data chip recorded atmospheric conditions in your cell. The Tereks were monitoring gas levels around you, but it also caught readings from the ship itself." She touched the tablet, and a new chart appeared. "The Terek ship has special chambers that all Tereks must enter every 30 minutes, Dr. Hyun continued. "These chambers provide a gas mixture they need to breathe. Without it, their bodies begin to shut down. That's why Krav always left after exactly 30 minutes, Jun said, the pieces falling into place, no matter what was happening. Admiral Ta nodded. "The Tereks can't function in our atmosphere for long periods. They need regular treatments in special chambers with their home planet's air mix." "That's their weakness," Jun said. "And they know I discovered it. That's why Krav looked so worried when I asked how long they could function between atmospheric treatments." Dr. Hyun looked impressed. "That was the perfect question. It confirmed your suspicion and showed them you had noticed their pattern." Captain Sunho leaned against the wall. "The war's gone badly for the past year. The Tereks have better ships and weapons. But this changes everything. We need to act quickly," Admiral Ta said. "Now that they know we've discovered their weakness, they'll change their tactics." Jun swung his legs over the side of the bed. "What about New Hope Colony? My sister Mina." A sad look crossed Admiral Ta's face. New Hope was attacked, but not destroyed. Many people escaped. We're still accounting for survivors. "So she might be alive," Jun said, hope rising in his chest. "Yes," Admiral Ta replied. "And finding this weakness might help save many more lives." Dr. Hyun touched the tablet again. "Based on our analysis, we believe we can develop a compound that affects the Terek's ability to process oxygen. It would force them to return to their atmospheric chambers much more frequently, cutting their effective fighting time in half," Captain Sunho added. "Or more," Dr. Hyun said. "But we would need to deploy it directly into their ship ventilation systems." Jun stood up, ignoring the doctor's protests. "I know their ships. I spent 3 months studying every detail of that cell and what I could see beyond it." Admiral Ta looked at him carefully. "You've been through enough, Commander Han. You don't need to go back into danger." "I need to see this through," Jun said firmly. "And I need to find my sister." After a moment, Admiral Ta nodded. "Very well. Captain Park will lead the mission. You'll be her advisor." "When do we start?" Jun asked. "Tomorrow," Admiral Ta answered. "The War Council meets at 800 hours. And Commander Han, thank you. One sentence may have just changed everything." The War Council room was large and bright. A round table sat in the middle. Maps and screens covered the walls. June sat between Captain Sunho and Engineer Jia. Across from them were Admiral Tai, Dr. Hyun, and 5 other military leaders. "The compound is ready," Dr. Hyun said, holding up a small clear container with blue liquid. "We call it oxygen disruptor. It forces the Terrics to use their atmospheric chambers every 10 minutes instead of 30. That would cripple their fighting ability," one of the generals said. Admiral Ta nodded. "Exactly. But getting it into their ships won't be easy." Captain Sunho stood up and touched a screen on the wall. A 3D image of a Terric ship appeared. "We need to place the compound in their main air system," she explained. "Commander Han has identified the best entry point based on his time on their ship." All eyes turned to June. He pointed to a spot on the image. "Here. This is an access port for their ventilation system. Every Terric ship has one. It's used for cleaning the air filters." "How do we get to it?" another general asked. "That's the hard part," June admitted. "It's on the outside of the ship, but protected by defense systems and guards." Engineer Jia stood up next. "I've modified a Terric shuttle we captured last year. It will look like one of theirs on their scanners. We can approach undetected." Once aboard, Captain Sunho continued, "We'll need to reach the central air system. Commander Han will guide us." Admiral Tai looked worried. "This is very dangerous. The Terrics will be expecting something like this now that they know we've discovered their weakness." "We don't have a choice," June said. "Every day we wait, more colonies fall." A message flashed on one of the screens. Admiral Tai read it, and his face grew serious. "The Terric fleet is moving," he announced. "They're gathering for a major attack. Intelligence suggests they're targeting our Mars base." The room grew quiet. Mars base was the last major defense point before Earth. "When do we leave?" June asked. "Tomorrow," Captain Sunho replied. "We'll use the Terric attack as cover. While their fleet is focused on Mars, we'll target their command ship." Dr. Hyun handed small containers of the blue liquid to Captain Sunho. "These must be placed in their air system. Once activated, the compound will spread throughout the ship in minutes." As the meeting ended, June walked to the window. Earth looked peaceful from space. So many people down there had no idea how close they were to losing everything. Jia joined him at the window. "Are you sure you want to do this? You just escaped from them." "I'm sure," June said. "I need to finish what I started." Later that night, June couldn't sleep. He sat in his quarters looking at an old photo of Mina and her family. The picture was taken at New Hope Colony's founding ceremony 3 years ago. Mina smiled at the camera, her husband beside her, their 2 children in front. A soft knock on his door broke his thoughts. Captain Sunho entered when June called out. "I checked the survivor lists from New Hope again," she said. "Still no confirmation about your sister, but many people escaped into the underground shelters. Records are still coming in." "Thank you," June said. "I have to believe she's alive." Sunho sat across from him. "Tomorrow will be dangerous. The Terrics will be ready for us. But they won't expect us to know so much about their ships," June replied. "I spent 3 months memorizing every detail I could see. Every sound, every pattern. That's why you're so valuable," Sunho said, "and why the mission can't fail." They spent the next hour going over the plan again. The modified Terric shuttle, the approach, the entry point, the path to the air system, the backup plans if things went wrong. As Sunho left, she turned at the door. "Get some sleep, Commander. Tomorrow we might change the course of this war." June nodded, but knew sleep wouldn't come easily. Not with thoughts of tomorrow's mission filling his mind. Not with memories of Crab's torture still fresh. Not with Mina's fate unknown. But one thought gave him strength. The Terrics had made a mistake keeping him alive. And that mistake might just save humanity. The captured Terric shuttle was smaller than June expected. It had room for only 6 people. Captain Sunho piloted. Engineer Jia sat next to her, working the systems. Jun and 3 soldiers named Taho, Min, and Doyun filled the remaining seats. Final check, Sunho called out. Everyone tested their equipment. Body armor, weapons, oxygen masks, the small containers of blue liquid that Dr. Hyun had given them. Mars base reports the Terek fleet is attacking, Jia announced, looking at her screen. All Terek attention is focused there. Perfect, Sunho said. Launching now. The shuttle left the Earth Defense Station smoothly. They flew away from Earth, towards the edge of the solar system where the main Terek fleet had gathered. Their command ship will be hanging back from the main battle, Jun said. That's their pattern. Krav will be there. Sunho nodded. Our scans show a large ship at these coordinates. That must be it. For 2 hours, they flew in silence. The shuttle's engines were quiet. Its outside looked exactly like a Terek ship. Inside, the humans sat nervously, checking their weapons and going over the plan one more time. Finally, they saw it. The Terek command ship was massive, 10 times bigger than their shuttle. Its dark metal hull was covered in strange patterns that glowed faintly. Approaching now, Sunho said quietly. Everyone ready. Jia activated their fake Terek identification signal. Signal sent. We're telling them we're a maintenance ship with engine trouble, requesting emergency docking. Jun watched through the small window as they grew closer to the giant ship. Would the Tereks believe their story? Had Krav warned them to expect something like this? They're responding, Jia said, surprise in her voice. Docking permission granted. They're guiding us to Bay 12. That's good, right? Taho asked. Too good, Jun said. Suspicious. Be ready for anything. The shuttle slid into the docking bay of the Terek ship. Through the window, Jun could see several Terek workers moving around. None seemed concerned about their arrival. Remember, Sunho said as they prepared to exit, we need to reach the central air system. Place the containers. Then get out. No heroics. No delays. The door opened with a hiss. The team moved quickly, weapons ready. The Tereks in the bay looked up in surprise. Before they could react, Taho and Min fired stun weapons. The Tereks fell to the floor, temporarily paralyzed. This way, Jun said, leading them through a door. The corridor beyond was familiar to him. It looked just like the ones he had seen during his captivity. The central air system is 3 levels up, he explained. There's a maintenance shaft that will take us there directly. They moved quickly through the ship. Twice they had to hide as Terek soldiers passed. Once they had to stun another worker who saw them, but mostly, the ship seemed empty. Where is everyone? Do-hyun whispered. Watching the battle at Mars, Jun guessed, or in their atmospheric chambers. They found the maintenance shaft. It was narrow, but they could climb it one by one. Jun went first, then Ja, then the others. At the top, they found a large room filled with humming machinery. This is it, Jun said. The central air system. Jia moved to the main control panel. I'll need 2 minutes to override their systems. Hurry, Sunho urged, watching the door. Jun took out his container of blue liquid. Soon, this would spread through the whole ship. The Tereks would start to feel the effects minutes later. Suddenly, the door slid open. Jun spun around, raising his weapon. In the doorway stood General Krav. Human, Krav said, looking directly at Jun. I knew you would return. Behind Krav were 6 Terek soldiers, all with weapons aimed at the humans. Drop your weapons, Krav ordered, or die where you stand. Nobody moved. The humans and Terek stood facing each other, weapons ready. Jun looked at General Krav's 4 eyes. The Terek seemed different somehow. Less angry. More curious. You knew about our atmospheric needs, Krav said to Jun. How? Sunho glanced at Jun, warning him not to answer. But Jun had a feeling. Something wasn't right. I watched, Jun said simply. I counted. Every 30 minutes you left. Every 30 minutes, All Terek soldiers changed shifts, even during important moments. Krav's head tilted slightly. Humans were not supposed to notice such things. You were supposed to be too primitive. Krav stepped forward. The Terek soldiers stayed by the door. What is your plan? To poison our air. Jia had stopped working on the control panel. She looked at Sunho for guidance. Sunho kept her weapon raised, pointed at Krav. We came to end the war, Jun said. You attacked our colonies. You killed our people. As you killed ours, Krav replied. This war has gone on too long. This surprised Jun. Then why continue it? Krav made a gesture. His soldiers lowered their weapons slightly. The High Command received a message 1 hour ago. From your Earth Defense Station. Now Jun was confused. He looked at Sunho, who seemed equally surprised. What message? She asked. A request for a meeting, Krav said. Your Admiral Todd wishes to discuss terms. He says you have discovered something that changes the balance of power. Jun understood now. Admiral Tai had sent a message while their team was flying to the Terek ship. A backup plan. Is that true? Jun asked. Your leaders are willing to talk. Yes, Krav said. That is why I am here. To bring you to the communication center, not to fight you. Tahoe and Min kept their weapons ready. It could be a trap, Tahoe warned. Krav turned to his soldiers and spoke in the Terek language. They seemed surprised but obeyed his order to leave. When they were gone, Krav faced the humans again. No trap, he said. This war costs too much. We did not know humans were so observant, so adaptable. We can cripple your fleet, Jun said, showing the blue container now. This would force your soldiers to return to atmospheric chambers every 10 minutes instead of 30. Krav's exoskeleton seemed to ripple slightly, a sign of shock, Jun guessed. You could have deployed that already, Krav noted. Yes, Jun agreed. After a long moment, Krav made another gesture. This one seemed like respect. Come, he said. The High Command is waiting to speak with your leaders. The humans followed Krav through the ship to a large room filled with screens and control panels. On the main screen was Admiral Tay's face. Next to him stood Dr. Hyun. Commander Han, Admiral Ta said when he saw Jun. I see you've met our new negotiating partners. Sir, Sunho said, what's happening? A ceasefire, Admiral Todd explained. Across the whole system, the Terek High Command has agreed to talks. Dr. Hyun stepped forward on the screen. The information you discovered, Commander Han, convinced them. When we sent details about their atmospheric dependency, they knew we could exploit it. On another screen appeared 3 Tereks with elaborate exoskeletons, the Terek High Command. Human Admiral, one of them spoke through a translator. Your kind has proven more resourceful than we anticipated. This Commander Han observed what no non-Terek has ever noticed. We do not wish to fight a war we might lose, another Terek commander added. Nor do we wish to continue a conflict that harms both our peoples. Jun looked at Krav, who was standing straighter now. The humans questioned to me. Krav told his leaders, showed intelligence and observation we did not expect. One sentence revealed what we thought was our secret. Admiral Todd nodded on the screen. Then let's discuss terms for a lasting peace. For the next 2 hours, humans and Tereks talked. The Kuiper Belt, which had started the war, would be shared. Research would be conducted together. Colonies would be rebuilt. As the meeting ended, Krav approached Jun. You were a worthy prisoner, the Terek said. Your one question changed everything. Jun thought of Mina, of the destroyed colonies, of his tortured months in captivity. Was it worth it? He asked. All this death. Krav's 4 eyes blinked slowly. No war is worth it, human, but some truths are. You showed us that we underestimated your kind. That was a truth we needed to learn. As Jun and his team prepared to return to Earth, a message came through from Mars base. The fighting had stopped. Ships were standing down. And among the refugee lists from New Hope Colony, a name had appeared: Minahan. Alive. June closed his eyes, relief washing over him. The war was ending. His sister was alive. And it had all changed with one carefully observed pattern and one well-chosen sentence. 6 months had passed since the peace talks began. Earth was celebrating the official signing of the treaty today. June stood by the large window in the Earth Defense Station, watching ships arrive. Human ships, Turek ships, all coming together peacefully. "Commander Han," a voice called. June turned to see Admiral Tai approaching. "It's almost time for the ceremony." June nodded. He wore a new uniform with special insignia. After the war ended, he had been promoted and given a new title: Xenobiological Liaison Officer. His job was to help humans and Tereks understand each other better. "Is my sister here yet?" June asked. "Yes," Admiral Tai replied with a smile. "Mina and her family arrived an hour ago. They're waiting in the main hall." Relief and happiness filled June's heart. After finding Mina's name on the survivor list, it had taken 2 months to actually reunite with her. New Hope Colony had been partially destroyed, but many people had escaped to underground shelters. Mina and her family had been among the lucky ones. They'd walked together to the great hall of the station. Hundreds of people had gathered there, humans in their best clothes, Tereks with specially decorated exoskeletons. Media cameras floated around the room, broadcasting the historic event to both species across the solar system. June spotted Mina in the crowd. She waved excitedly, her husband and children beside her. They looked thin but healthy. June waved back, promising himself he would spend time with them after the ceremony. At the center of the hall was a large round table. On one side sat human leaders, including Admiral Ta. On the other side sat the Terek High Command. And there, standing slightly behind them, was General Krav. Krav caught June's eye and made the same gesture of respect he had shown on the ship. June returned it, still amazed at how much had changed. The ceremony began. Leaders from both sides signed the peace treaty. Its terms were fair to everyone. The Kuiper Belt would be developed together. Technology would be shared. A new joint council would be formed to prevent future conflicts. After the signing, Admiral Tai called June to the front. "This man," Admiral Tai announced to the crowd, changed the course of the war with his observation skills and one well-chosen question. "Commander Jun Han reminded us that understanding our enemies is sometimes more powerful than fighting them." Applause filled the room. June felt uncomfortable with the attention, but he understood its importance. People needed heroes after long wars. As the formal ceremony ended, Krav approached June. "Human," Krav said, his translator making his voice sound almost friendly now. "I have been assigned as the Terek diplomatic representative to Earth. And I've been assigned to help Tereks and humans understand each other," June replied. "Then we will work together," Krav said. As strange as that would have seemed 3 months ago. June nodded. War makes enemies. Peace can make partners. Later, June finally embraced his sister Mina. Her children hugged his legs tightly. "You look different," Mina said, touching his face gently. "Older." "I feel older," June admitted. "I saw and learned too much too quickly." "They say you're a hero," Mina's husband said. "That you ended the war." June shook his head. "I just noticed a pattern. Anyone could have done it." "But they didn't," Mina said firmly. "You did." That evening, June visited the station's memorial wall. Names of those lost in the war covered its surface. Thousands of humans, thousands of Tereks too, added recently as part of the peace agreement, both sides honoring all who had died. June placed his hand on the cold wall. So many lost, so much pain, all because 2 species didn't understand each other. As he turned to leave, he saw Krav standing nearby, also looking at the names. "Was it worth it?" Krav asked, echoing June's question from the ship. "No," June replied honestly, "but what comes next might be." Together, The human and the Terek walked away from the memorial, toward the large window showing Earth below and stars beyond. Different species, different biologies, different histories. But now, finally, a shared future. All because of one prisoner who paid attention and one sentence that changed everything.